designed our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth the New Fletch.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
I'm your soggy backpack cigarette Mike.
And last but not least, it's Colton. And I will not stand for this Mary Brown slander. The woman goes and makes delicious fried chicken, and everyone thinks it's witchcraft. It's just shameful.
It's so good, it is witchcraft. Listen, that secret blend of herbs and spices.
Right?
Made in a cauldron. Just saying.
And we are Jill-less this evening. She claims for a power outage. We claim it's because she's a dirtbag and she's watching WrestleMania. I don't have any jokes about WrestleMania because I don't know anything about WrestleMania. So
me neither. Is like Goldberg still going on? I don't know.
Jesus.
Triple H. I don't know, man. It's been a minute since
Hulk
I've heard
Hogan?
anything about wrestling.
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
I remember
he might be dead. I don't know.
There was a guy called the Godfather, and he was a pimp, and his move was called the Hoe Train. I remember that in the 90s.
All right.
But yes, no Jill. So we know what that means.
The boys.
Oh, wow.
Boys' night.
It's like the original vision of the Blair Witch Project. It's just three dudes instead of two dudes and a woman.
You know what we're missing?
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Yes, so let's just start off. We know what we're starting with. What have we been consuming? What have we been watching? What have we been reading? What have we been listening to? All that sort of stuff. Colton, you weren't here last episode in protest against women and werewolves and Canadian film.
I didn't
vocal.
listen to the episode, so I hope that's not what was said. But
no, we did talk about your hatred of the Canadian film industry and how just everyone you've ever worked with last time, you were just like bad-mouthing them to us and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, that might be true. It's just usually I don't record it or say it on a podcast.
What have you been consuming, though?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I missed our Ginger Snaps Back episode, the beginning, whatever you want to call it. And Jill's not here to kind of react to it. But honestly, Willow was coming on. I had this feeling like we were trying to recreate the Willow versus Colton beef. And it was kind of just this movie that I watched, and I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I just kind of thought it was pretty mediocre and kind of boring. And it was just one of those where I was like, if I'm on this episode and everyone else loves this movie, and I'm just like, yeah, but it was kind of boring for, I don't know, stuck in a 4-hour podcast recording, it'll be a nightmare. So I skipped it. I didn't hate it. And, I don't hate any of the Ginger Snaps movies. I just don't think they're masterpieces or anything. So this was probably the weakest of the three, I would say. But it was still like,
I think we all said that on the episode. I think everyone was in agreement with that.
Well, I'm just repeating everyone's talking points then. So I'll move on to a thoroughly not mediocre movie called Lee Cronin's The Mummy. And what I'll just say is, because we have a Now Slaying coming out on this, if you're a fan of the Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser, or for some god-awful reason you're a fan of that Tom Cruise one, you probably won't like this one. If you're a fan of Evil Dead Rise, it'll probably appeal to you, is kind of how I felt about the movie. But obviously, Rowan and I talk about it a lot more on our upcoming Now Slaying. Outside of that, I've been kind of just busy with playing some video games in my off time. It's that time of the year where a lot of my friends are off for like Easter break or just kind of, running through some of their leave. So I've just been playing like the Resident Evil games, Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, or Hades 2 just came out, so I was gaming that for a bit. But outside of gaming, there was one TV series
Hades, more like Gades.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. Everybody in the game is just, attractive. And, that's kind of what they're doing. Just a weird dating simulator into like a third person action game. But it's a good time. But yeah, the TV show I was watching, I don't watch very many TV shows. It's pretty rare. It's basically Game of Thrones or Last of Us at this point that I actually make it through it. But there was a new horror a new horror series on Netflix called Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen. I don't know if either of you guys have heard of it or seen it.
I've heard of it. I thought it was a movie for some reason.
I knew it was a show, and that kind of turned me off. But a lot of people have approached me and been like, "Hey, you might like this." So
yeah, I mean, honestly, it's pretty good. It's an 8-episode miniseries, and the premise is essentially a bride and groom going up to the groom's kind of family lodge in a remote area 5 or 6 days before their wedding. And the bride just has this feeling of impending doom, that something very bad is going to happen. And it kind of dips its toe into a lot of horror cliches, or, does a lot of red herrings to fun effect. At one moment, you might believe it's a slasher horror. At one moment, you might believe it's like the evil family horror. Maybe it's paranormal. Maybe it's a curse. Maybe it's witchcraft, whatever it is. It kind of points in a bunch of different directions that I found pretty interesting. It does reveal kind of halfway through what it is about. And after that kind of reveal, I did take a little bit longer to watch the second half of the season, is what I'll say. I didn't necessarily love it, but regardless, the show still has this really great sense of style and attitude. If you like late title card drops, this is for you. Or if you like really impactful needle drops, when a song just hits, it's for you. Lots of crazy camera work, like sweeping and long oneers, very showy, flashy stuff, and just some like interesting horror imagery throughout. There's one in the pilot that's like this gross restroom on the edge of the road. They go into it, and there's a broken toilet with a fox kind of mangled in the toilet, and it has little fox pups nursing on it, and it's this kind of really grotesque imagery that I thought, once I saw that, I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And for the cast, I think it's a bunch of people I didn't really know. Everyone does a good job, but the main actress, Camila Morrone, I haven't seen her in anything else, and she's giving off big. God, what's the actress who stars in Companion and
Sophie
Heretic?
Thatcher?
Yeah, she's given off big Sophie Thatcher vibes, and nice. I feel like this actress, Camila Morrone, is going to wind up being a pretty big horror actress if she wants to. She absolutely kills it. Like, she has to deal with a lot in the show, especially, when you're surrounded by essentially 10 family members and they're all very eccentric, and once again, you don't know exactly which way the horror is going. I really enjoyed a lot of it. I thought it was a very solid series. Not a home run, not like something that you absolutely need to watch, but if you're one of those people that you kind of like these miniseries on Netflix's anyways, if you're like, can't wait for the new Mike Flanagan series, I think you should probably just give it a shot. It might be up your alley. And I think it was filmed here in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, so nice. That's pretty neat. Yeah. The last thing I have written down here, I've seen some other things, just, like bad movie Discord nights, like, Suburban Sasquatch or some just garbage that's like entertaining. And I was kind of flirting with maybe picking up for the show at some point. But I did go out to the theater and see Christopher Borgle's new movie, The Drama, and, starring Robert Pattinson and Zendaya. And what I'll say is I wish I could just emphatically love the movie. I do think in a vacuum, it's a pretty great movie. At least very good. It's just, I don't know if you guys saw kind of his article. Rowan's nodding. Yeah, essentially a couple of weeks before this movie came out, it was revealed that when he was 28, he was dating a 15 or 16-year-old in Norway for a summer. And basically all of his friends thought it was really weird. And, his family thought it was really weird. But instead of just kind of taking at face value that this was an inappropriate relationship, he chose to write a lengthy article about how it's actually really great and more people should do it, and that he's just following in the footsteps of some of his idols like Woody Allen and those sorts of people. And when I was watching this movie, I kind of couldn't divorce myself from this idea of obviously
I kept hearing everyone talk about this director being problematic. Okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah, so his movie a couple of years ago, Dream Scenario with Nick Cage, I loved. I thought it was a really good concept for the movie. It's one of my favorite movies of that year. And The Drama, I'm not going to spoil what it's about here because I wouldn't say it's like a twist or anything. It's definitely like the whole thrust of the movie, but it is something like they're trying to keep hidden. It's a reveal. Yeah. It revolves around essentially two couples kind of divulging the worst thing they ever done around a dinner party, like a wine tasting. And when Zendaya reveals what she did, It's a very hot button topic in the United States and a very provocative idea about once you know this thing about your partner, could you continue to have a relationship with them and could you continue to kind of move towards your wedding at the end of the week? And for me, when I was watching the movie, I wasn't really upset or disturbed too much by like what it's about. But when kind of watching the movie through the frame of Robert Pattinson's character kind of being a self-insert for Christopher Borgli, which his hair is styled similar to Christopher Borgli in the movie, where it's almost like this weird kind of wiry mushroom cut sort of thing. And he's also playing a character who's around the same age as Christopher Borgli. And you have numerous scenes in the movie of Robert Pattinson posing with Zendaya's 15 to 16-year-old version of herself, because the worst thing that she did was from when she was a teenager, and, posing for wedding pictures and stuff with it. It very much felt like to me that he didn't know that people were going to know about this letter a couple of weeks before this movie, but it feels like to me that he's basically saying, I did something really bad when I was younger, and maybe we should all just excuse it and move past it. And as somebody who was watching the movie with that knowledge, I couldn't really divorce myself from that idea. It was basically a really good, fucked up kind of romantic comedy or drama or like thriller, kind of like a heady psychological kind of case study. But it was basically, I just couldn't help but see that he was trying to excuse really bad pedophilic behavior when he was, a decade younger. So I don't know. If you could somehow watch the movie and not know what I just said, you'd probably enjoy it a lot more. I still think overall it's a good movie as just a movie. It's just I can't just take it all at face value anymore when I was going into it. I was super distracted of seeing, 38, 39-year-old Robert Pattinson with his arm around a 15-year-old girl in a wedding dress smiling and, being happy about it. I understand in the movie it is because he cannot divorce his bride away from that younger version of herself that may or may not did something really awful. It's just, once again, with the knowledge of the director, it was just very disturbing to me, more so than the subject matter. So yeah, Rowan was asking me which movie he should go see. I think he was saying, what was it, the drama or what was it, Project Hail Mary?
Yeah, no, I saw neither, so
there you go. Yeah, you killed it. So Rowan, how about you tell us about what you've been checking out? You ever haven't seen the drama or
no,
Project
I haven't
Hail
seen
Mary?
either
So
of
what have
those.
you been watching?
So like you, watching a little TV.
Okay.
Obviously, the new season of Daredevil is out, and I'm a sucker for, I was going to say punishment, but not really when it's Daredevil. Probably one of the better, MCU television shows.
Even after it made the jump to Disney Plus from Netflix, you still think it's some pretty good television?
Yeah, I enjoy it just because it doesn't,
Okay.
it still has the Netflix feel. They let all the Netflix people come work on it.
Yep.
And it's really, to me, the only thing they've done that it still rides that kind of like R rating, like more mature rating like the Netflix one did. Now, I have noticed, I don't know if other people have, but I think you can gradually see them trying to rein it back a little bit. So it's like, oh, let's make this so it's a little more PG, but it's still very like adult themed and stuff. It's still pretty violent, but the performances I think are fantastic in it. And I think kind of like everyone, I'm waiting for, they're just fully diving in now into the Netflix stuff. They've already announced Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, like all these guys are coming back this season to be in this. Obviously, John Berthnall's coming back. He was already in the last season. He's coming back in this.
I think he also has his own miniseries
he's got a
or movie
special
or something coming up, right? Yeah.
Because they're now finally marrying them because his Punisher is in the upcoming Spider-Man movie coming out. So, yeah, I've been enjoying it. If you're a big fan of The Sopranos and what's his name? Gandolfini. If you're a big fan of Gandolfini, his son is one of the stars of this season. He's like an understudy to the Kingpin. He's like just like a communications marketing guy for like politicians, but he's like super sleazy and young, and he's fantastic in it. Like I've really enjoyed him in it. But yeah, I've been watching that. It's been fun. Like you said, we went and saw The Mummy, listened to our episode about it. You'll probably have to wait till way down the line. Colton didn't even bring up the 5-star masterpieces we watched, but we did. I know we both checked out Thrash.
I did forget to mention it. But once again, it was the sort of reason why behind the scenes I said, we probably shouldn't even bother doing an episode on it, because it's a good creature feature for what it is, you know? It's just in terms of discussion.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot there to discuss.
I'm sure it'll
on
make it on the end of the year. So,
something, you know?
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe if I remember it by then, we can.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably going to watch it every week, so I'll remember it.
Great.
Just slapper.
Shark Week every week.
Got a couple sleazeball movies I watched. Got my mic on, and I was like, why not be a... So I checked out The Last Seduction.
Linda Fiorentino.
Yeah, Linda Fiorentino, which was kind of funny. And because I was just like, you never see her. She just kind of like disappeared off the face of the planet.
I know. She was in everything for like 4 years.
But her, like Bill Pullman, Bill Nunn from Do the Right Thing, Dee Norris from
Breaking Bad.
That's what I was thinking of. But I really enjoyed this. This was definitely like a Tubi special. I was like, oh, it's time to watch some like bad erotic thriller stuff on Tubi. But this was like actually really good. I like the mystery of it. It was very Gone Girl in themes. I love a movie where everyone in it is just kind of a piece of shit, and it's like you don't really know who you're supposed to root for. But it was really great. And then followed that up with by Mike's request. I said last episode, Mike told me to watch it, and then I didn't. And then I finally did.
And I got mad at him.
Which is Dream Lover. And this was like a 5-star for me. This was so good.
I knew you were going to love it. I knew it.
James Spader. Like, it reminded me of like... almost like a Lynchian type movie, like with these kind of dreamy aspects.
And speaking of Lynchian, it had Machen Amick in it from Twin Peaks.
Yes, and what I like to think of as one of the mothers from Riverdale, and I'm like, boy,
Riverdale. I knew you were gonna fucking bring that up.
Seen a lot of nudity from this mother in Riverdale.
Yeah,
but this is like fantastic. I don't think I've seen a lot of I Have Hair James Spader. And just a looker. He was a looker back then.
Oh my god, James Spader was like the hottest. He was fucking in a lot of movies in the early 90s, man. Like,
but this was another one that was just really. This was a good Mike recommendation. I really really enjoyed this, and I was like, this is 100% up my alley. And then I'll keep.
Listen, you said recommend an erotic thriller, and I was not going to steer you wrong because this is my fucking wheelhouse, man.
And then another 5-star for me. I checked out Crimes of Passion. Yeah, I mean, I should have known. Ken Russell,
the king.
I'm faltering now. I'm like Altered States is like one of my all-time favorites. And
when you texted me and said that you hadn't seen it before, my jaw like hit the floor, honestly.
Now I don't know if Altered States or this are like what one's better. This one is so good though. Anthony Perkins is in it. He's fantastic. Yeah. John Laughlin, Kathleen Turner is amazing in it. I mean, if you like Ken Russell, this is it's awesome. It's like an erotic thriller. It's a giallo. It's got like some horror elements into it. A Ken Russell movie, so it's super fucked up. I highly suggest anyone to watch it. Like, even reading about the movie, super interesting. Like, he did like 8 million cuts to this movie to get it down to an R from an X. And this is, other than Altered States, this is his only other American film that he did. And it's just, 4K. Where's the 4K of this? It's just...
I know. I have the VHS tape of it.
Yeah, it's got the, as Joe would call that, bisexual lighting. And... it would look fantastic in 4K. One I won't say anything about because I know it's technically classified as a horror, and I always say you never know when you have Mike on your podcast. You never know what the hell he's gonna pick. But I did check out The Seduction also.
Love another Mike banger.
Yeah. And then on the not so Mike side, checked out Crime 101 finally.
Is that the sequel to Crimes of Passion? Or?
Yeah, it's the and then if you want to go into the sequel, Crimes of the Future, it's a real trilogy, that's the trilogy there. Yeah, but I really like Crime 101. I had heard like kind of mixed things about it, and I don't know, like this was like work watch, like we watched it at work, it was a quiet night, and the score is crazy in it. Like I was like, this is one of my favorite scores in a little bit. It's like a heavy original synth score, kind of gave me like Drive vibes, and like they were definitely going for that feel. I thought the performances were pretty good. I thought Mark Ruffalo was good. Hemsworth was all right. I'm always just kind of like lukewarm on Hemsworth, but there's like a guy that plays like kind of this rich asshole in it. I just want to shout him out, Tate Donovan. OC.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say our OC king.
I know him as well.
Yeah, yeah, he was in it. So I'm always pumped when there's like an OC guy in it.
Yeah,
but I really liked it. I thought it was a good time. It's a little long, you know. I thought the time was worth the squeeze for me. Also got a chance.
Is that how that goes? The time is worth the squeeze.
Yeah, totally not. That's the new saying now. Got my Colton on. I did my mic, had to get my Colton on, A24 it. So I finally got to check out The Moment. I guess kind of a mic.
It's funny you say you got your Colton on for this because I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
And in terms
it's
of
definitely more of a mic pick, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of Charlie XCX, I don't know if I call myself a fan, mostly just because I don't know if I've even really heard any of her music, really, so...
How dare you?
Yeah, so this is, like we said, Charlie XCX. She's the star of it. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a psychotic dream. If you have epilepsy, you definitely cannot see this movie. It's just strobe lights for an hour and 20 minutes.
Isn't it just like a mockumentary of almost herself?
It's a mockumentary. You know, she's played coy in the marketing, being like, oh, some of this is true, some of it's not. You don't know what is, what isn't. I kind of felt the same, a little better, but I felt very much similar to that Weekend movie that A24 did.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was like very self-indulgent. It was very like, I'm this very popular artist. My life is extremely hard. Woe is me. People want me everywhere, and people want me to sign autographs, and I got to do deals with marketing for banks and all this stuff, and I'm not perfect. And I'm not saying you can't have those feelings as an artist, but it's very hard to convey when just a general watcher's like watching, even in a mockumentary style, you complaining about how rich and famous you are, and how like it's rough that you have to escape to your celebrity exclusive spas so you can hang out with Kendall Jenner. Like, yes, very difficult life. And then on top of that, just there's not really much of a story. It's just kind of she's having a hard time. How does she deal with it? The highlight of it is Alex Skarsgård is kind of the antagonist in a way. He's like a kind of canceled music director, basically a video director that does like Amazon. They drop Amazon Prime a lot in this. It's about like he directs sanitized Amazon Prime concert videos.
Nice.
So it's all, Charlie XCX doesn't want to sell out, but the label wants you to make a family-friendly concert movie. So Alex Skarsgård, dressing super gay. He's in like halter tops the whole time and mesh shirts. He's awesome in this. Like he's going for it. But yeah, I mean, other than that, and it's pretty good. Also, not a lot of Charlie XCX music, so I was also kind of
that was actually going to be my question. Is it largely a concert film for her at least, or does she perform 6 or 7 of her songs? No, okay.
I would say there's maybe 3 of her songs in this, maybe, okay. And they're in it for like a minute. Most of it is just like weird, what you'd expect like an A24 movie score to be, and that's essentially what it was. But yeah, I mean, it was fine. I didn't think it was anything overly incredible. I saved the incredible stuff for last. So then I did get finally a chance to check out I'm Chevy Chase and You're Not. This has been on my watch list since it came out. I'm a huge Chevy Chase fan. And of course, as this came out, there was lots of drama about him coming out, about all the stuff about his leave, his firing from Community, and how he treated the woman that made this documentary, and that he, was terrible to make this with, and they couldn't find anyone to talk about him in a positive light in this. I really enjoyed it. He just has presence, and he's one of those guys that even though he's an asshole, he's still funny. I think it goes to show you a lot. Like, they interview, I can't think of his name, but he's like one of the guys that's in Super Troopers, like that comedy writing group, but he directed a bunch of Community, and he was basically one of the main guys that went on the record that was like, Chevy Chase was a nightmare for me. He was the bane of my existence. But it just goes to show you the star power and the talent when at the end of the documentary, he's just like, every single fucking time I would say yes to directing him and having him in something. Because he's just like that much of like a comedy genius that he's just like, you can't say no. But I thought it was like, they interview a lot of his family, his neighbor that's like also now his assistant. You get to see a lot of like the sweet side. So I'm very curious on, it's just a very interesting yin and yang.
It sounds like a puff piece to me because they probably couldn't get anybody to actually talk about him anymore, about how notorious of an asshole he was.
I would say it's almost the opposite, because all the interviewing with the documentarian is very like, it looks bad on him. He's insulting her. Obviously, like the famous clip from the trailer where he tells her to her face that she's not smart enough to ever understand who he is, so there's no point in trying. But I just found when you get it all in context, like, you never see her, but you hear her asking questions. And like, I was like, the questions are like very confrontational. They're very like, you can tell she doesn't like him, and they're like, there's some friction there. So you're pretty much already starting off on a bad foot with him. And like I said, it's just very interesting. Like, they talk to like fans that talk to him while they're following him around. He signs every piece of mail that comes to him. Like, I've never seen someone that's like so about his fans. He like goes around all these screenings and like, he's nice to everybody.
You see how I said puff piece?
Yeah, I mean,
you see how you talk about it? All I'm saying is the dude was on Community. You don't have a single person from Community other than one director. The guy was on Saturday Night Live for I don't know how many years, all these movies. You got his family and fans to talk about him. I mean, the National Lampoon movies were going on for like 20 years.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and it's very difficult too, because they had a lot of the Saturday Night Live people, and everyone's kind of the same thing. Like, he's kind of arrogant, and everyone's just like, I love him, I'd work with him. Like, he's just
okay.
That
And to
good.
be fair, there is a fair number of Saturday Night Live OG people that are dead now.
Wow, that's true. I did like seeing Dan Aykroyd. A lot of Dan Aykroyd in it.
Okay.
And I feel like Dan Aykroyd's a pretty nice guy. I don't know. He seems nice. And he sang praises. He said that if you were down and out, Chevy was like one of the first people to like help you out. It just seems there was also a lot of alcohol and drug issues. Like, he had like some serious addictions issues in the height of his fame where he was just out of it. So anyway, I enjoyed it. It was a good time. And then my last couple that I'm not going to really talk about, I saved the best for last, though. Check out Wild Card. This is a Jason Statham film about him in Las Vegas. It's a remake of a Burt Reynolds 80s movie called Wild Card, based on a book called Heat that isn't that Heat that you're thinking about. It was all right. It was kind of, the poster is like Statham in the air, like kicking and punching. And I think there's like 2 fight scenes in the whole movie. It's more of a character piece about a gambling addict. It wasn't great. I didn't know what was going on. Like, it seemed like just random scenes cut together. So every time I was in the next scene, I'm like, how did we get here and what's going on? Like, this seems to have no connection to anything else. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And then, lastly, I checked out In the Name of the King, a dungeon siege tale. I see Holden shaking his head. I'm sure he saw my my review.
It was bait. That's why
I
didn't even
bait.
comment on it.
It was bait.
Like
I said, this is now my Lord of the Rings, this trilogy. There's 3 of them. I saw 1 and 2. This is Statham when he had hair. It's like early 2000s. The cast of the first one is actually pretty nuts. It's Jason Statham, Ray Liotta, John Rhys Davis, Burt Reynolds, Matthew Lillard. It's like Ron Perlman. It's a $60 million production. It looks like it cost about 10, maybe less.
Directed by Uwe Boll.
Yes, directed by Uwe
Oh, wow.
Boll.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
And quite obviously, a Lord of the Rings ripoff. I was reading about it. Apparently, when he submitted the script, they were like, this is literally just Lord of the Rings. You need to rewrite it. And then he rewrote it, and it somehow also is just Lord of the Rings. They literally have like the Battle of Helm's Deep in it, like rain, everything. It's like shot for shot, the exact same thing.
There's no way they executed the Battle of Helm's Deep in this movie.
They attempted to. It's
okay.
It's not good. It's so bad. It's good. Ray Liotta is the antagonist. He's a sorcerer. Everyone has like this Lord of the Rings English accent. Ray Liotta is talking exactly like he's in Goodfellas.
Awesome.
So it's just a sorcerer basically just like ordering deli meat. It was so good. It was so funny. And then I watched the second one, which pretty much has nothing to do with the first one, except they couldn't get Jason Statham, so they got Dolph Lundgren. And it's basically about a special units officer that gets sucked back in time to, I don't know, save a witch or something. Like, this is another movie. I had no idea what the hell was going on. There's a dragon in it. That's a plus. That was about the only funny part, because obviously the dragon is terrible. The first one, $60 million budget. The second one was like a $4 million budget.
Sick.
And the dragon was what you'd expect, and it made it pretty funny. And
still directed by Uwe Boll, which is crazy. Imagine going from a $60 million budget to the sequel, like 1/10 that, and still directing it.
So I'm saving. We were watching these at work. These were like, we got to put on a bad movie. So I'm saving the third one that Dolph didn't return to.
Wow.
Because I read that Dolph only did it because he was going through a divorce and he needed money ASAP, and they agreed to pay it all up front right away. The third one stars the least famous guy from Prison Break, apparently. So we're just getting better and better. So I can't wait. But yeah, this is my trilogy. Where's the 4K? Where's the extended cuts? Theatrical extended cuts. We got to get it going. Mike, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? That's a loaded question.
How many times have you watched In the Name of the King?
Well, I just have it on a loop in the background so that it's like white noise in the background of my entire existence right now. Is that the answer you were hoping for?
I was hoping that. I would like to add that even though it's Lord of the Rings, they still managed to put in like Jason Statham avenging his family in it. Like, still Jason Statham avenging people.
I mean, does he have any other mode?
No.
Other than revenge? It's like him and Liam Neeson. It's like,
it only would have been better if it came out he was also like a military secret agent that was decommissioned.
Okay, true. And then reactivated like with a sleeper signal.
Anyway, we can't. This isn't the Jason Statham podcast. That's my other podcast.
Kill me.
No. Okay, I'm not going to talk about how I've been watching the new Housewives series, Real Housewives of Rhode Island, but I have. And I'm caught up. And if anybody wants to talk about it, DM me.
Thanks for not subjecting us both to this.
Yeah, I won't. It's
like how I don't talk about Survivor every couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, let's just say it's in my life, and that's as much as I'll say on that subject matter. I've had a kind of rough couple of weeks in terms of getting movies watched, because the half season of Marvel Rivals was ending and I needed to get to Diamond before it ended. So every night I'd be like, okay, I'm going to watch a movie tonight. And then I'm like, but I only need one more win and I'll be in Diamond. And then I'd lose 5 games and I was like, only 7 more wins and I'll be in Diamond. And it was just that for like a week. So I have squeezed a few movies in.
Did you get the Diamond?
I got to Diamond.
Okay.
I literally by the skin of my teeth, I got to Diamond.
Good.
So that's all I care about. What have I watched? Okay, so I started off this watch period, I'll call it, since we last recorded by watching a noir. You know, I love noir. I know they're not all. It's kind of like with giallo, and I don't mean giallo by like the big names. I mean, you know, kind of like just the standard run of the mill, you know, giallo directors that were putting out like 10 movies a year sort of deal. In that even when they're kind of like forgettable and boring, they're still baseline good and enjoyable and like a vibe. I watched one that I thought, okay, so it's by a director that I love, and this is one of his early films, and I thought I was gonna like become obsessed with it, but it was actually a little bit mid.
Okay.
And it was Killer's Kiss from 1955, directed by Stanley Kubrick.
Oh shit!
I was like,
okay.
oh my god,
I've heard of it.
An early Kubrick movie that I haven't seen. Like, I need to watch this finally. And I was like, it was shot really well. It was like a really competently made noir movie. But the thing about these is that, and I said this in my Letterboxd review, it's just kind of like hetero nonsense. I'm always like, come on, like, please. You know, it was like, it's fine. It's like I said, competently made, but I don't know. It's just one of those movies. It's about like a troubled like boxer and this woman, and you know, she has her hooks in them and twists happen. I mean, it's fine. Like, if you're into Kubrick, it's definitely worth watching, but it's definitely lesser Kubrick, shall we say. It is certainly not, you know, The Shining or Barry Lyndon or any of those. Mm-hmm. But I followed that up a couple days later with something that I know it's going to make me sound like a lunatic to say that this was better than a Stanley Kubrick movie. But everybody kind of drags, okay, so you know I love Fulci. But like a lot of directors, people kind of like drag their mid to late 80s output because it's usually like, well, 80s and sloppy and, you know, full of 80s hallmarks in music and movies and fashion. But I watched one of his that I hadn't seen from 1987, and it's called Enigma. And it was, to quote Rowan, a fucking banger. So imagine, you know, Fulci, you know, it's usually like zombies and crumbling graveyards and fucking gore exploding everywhere. So this is, how do I describe it? So it's an 80s Fulci that is kind of a mashup of like Carrie and like 5 other movies. So this girl, it starts off with this insane opening sequence, which it's like, you have to see it to believe it. It's like this girl getting a makeover, and this awful 80s fucking power ballad is playing that's describing what's happening on the screen, and it's completely unhinged. But she ends up getting, I'll call it, carried. You know, they like are going out on a date. She's going out on a date with this like, you know, cute boy that she has a crush on. And then it turns out that it's really just like a prank, and all the people are humiliating her because she's the cleaning lady's daughter. Like, it's very, you know, like class oriented. And she gets hit by a car and goes into a coma and is like completely mangled. But she develops this like weird psychic thing where she like possesses the new girl at the college and like starts to exact her revenge. And it's fucking crazy lunatic movie. And guys, you just got to see it to believe it. Watch it. I thought it was so fucking cool.
Super iconic poster.
Yeah, the poster is
poster
insane.
Is awesome
just go
looking.
I looked it up and I see it around all the time.
Yeah, see, and I was like, how have I never watched this?
I also just want to say that I love like how you were dragging the story out and you just really blew past. You're like, oh, and then she got in a car accident and mutilated. And then
listen, I'm hitting the important key points here, okay? That was excellent, and definitely check it out. Like, fuck people who drag his 80s output. So I also decided to go for, I kept getting in these moods for like certain things. Like I was like, I want, you know, an 80s Italian crazy film. I want, you know, a noir. And then I got into a point the next day where I was like, you know what? I really want like a Corman movie. So I wanted like a nice Corman Poe adaptation. So I went with the classic The Pit and the Pendulum with Vincent Price, who is amazing, of course, and Barbara Steele, who was in Bava films and all these like really classic horror movies. Excellent Poe adaptation that, like all of Corman's Poe adaptations, is really like 5 Poe stories folded into one. Love it. 4 stars. Banger. I finally watched, after probably 6 months of putting it off, the remake they did last year of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Speaking of erotic thrillers, with Micah Monroe, who we love, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. It wasn't quite as nasty as I thought it was going to be, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, the cast was phenomenal, and it had some really gross parts, and it had like, you know, hints of lesbianism, which I always enjoy. But it just, by the end of it, it just didn't quite hit as hard as I thought it was going to. I kind of like thought they were going to go in a completely different direction, and then the ending happened, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's it. So, you know, missed opportunity, but not a bad movie.
Yeah, that one was on my radar just because of who was involved, like Michael Monroe and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, of course. But I think it wound up being a direct Hulu movie afterwards, and then people were kind of mixed on it. So it just kind of passed me by. I never got around to it afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was fine. It's I don't regret watching it, but you know, it's like I knew there was a reason why I was like not putting it on like the day that it hit whatever streaming service it was on. And the last thing I watched was actually today in my brief 1.5 hours of downtime between when I got home and when we started recording. I watched Jean Roland's Lips of Blood, and we mentioned him several times in the last episode about Euro horror. Love him. He's the king of like gothic, dreamy, surreal vampire movies with lots of titties and lesbian vampires where not a lot happens and people are just wandering around crumbling castles or cities. So it's another film like that, and I fucking loved it. So that's all I've been up to.
Well, with that, why don't we get into our episode for this evening? I guess it's my turn to introduce it. It was my pick. I feel like this is a big one. This is one that, you know, I feel like everyone that starts a horror podcast is like on their initial lists of like movies we should do. And then I feel in only the way that Slay's podcast does, we avoid those as long as possible.
Yeah, this is one when you start the podcast, you're inevitably on a collision course to cover it at some point. It's just when you cover it.
But instead, you know, Mike's making us watch Prom Night 2 and Colton's making us watch Troll, and we're let's
derail the whole thing.
So I just, you know, I kind of figured this is one that pops up pretty often, and I think like some of the anniversary stuff, and people are always asking me like, hey, have you guys done this? Are you going to do it? And I talked about it with some people recently, so it was like fresh in my mind, and that is the Blair Witch Project, the original. So yeah, I mean, that's why I picked it, was just because this is, kind of one of the iconic ones that we haven't really done. In my mind, I was like, you know what? Every once in a while, we got to do a big one. So that's really why I picked it. So with that, why don't we get on to the trailer, and we'll be back with the synopsis and first experiences.
We have a few leads, a few other options we want to take advantage of, and just try to put together some pieces to this puzzle.
Do you believe the occult may be involved in the disappearance of your son?
Rated R. Now playing.
The Blair Witch Project was written and directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, and the story is as follows. In October of 1994, 3 student filmmakers disappeared in the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland, while shooting a documentary. A year later, their footage was found.
So, first experiences, is this our first time seeing this? Because we lived under a pile of rocks outside of our tent? Or, were we just out there getting scared in 1999 like little bitches? Colton, the biggest fan, I'd say, on the podcast of found footage.
Yeah, I would say that's probably fair. Yeah.
First time seeing this?
No. I mean, I didn't see it in 1999. If I was getting scared shitless in 1999, it'd probably be like The Mummy or Mummy Returns. That was my
Veggie
level
Tales
of horror at the time, you know? Maybe a Jurassic Park movie or something. But obviously, I had that period in junior high school where you kind of have the people over on the weekends to watch movies, and we would constantly be searching for what the scariest movie of all time was. So then you wind up in all these different found footage movies over the years. Like at the time, it was, of course, like Paranormal Activity, or for me, one of the ones I remember was The Fourth Kind, which I think has Mila Jovovich in it, but I remember it as like this crazy, scary alien abduction movie.
I like so that you're like the fourth person in the last 3 weeks that's brought that movie up to me for no reason. Just like random people at work, like, have you ever seen this movie, The Fourth Kind? And I'm like, no. And
man, should I pick The Fourth Kind? I mean, it'd be a bit of a vibe for the podcast. But yeah, basically, like in that pursuit of the scariest movies ever, and just having people over and watching horror movies. Once we were like in our mid-teens, eventually we stumbled on the Blair Witch Project, and I remember us all sitting around on probably a burned off DVD of mine, and essentially getting pretty lost in watching it. Now, was it a lot of complaining of wandering around in the woods? Maybe. But I do remember at the time, by the time the ending hit, we were all pretty scared shitless. So I've seen it then. Throughout the years, I haven't really rewatched it. I think I saw it that one time, and then I saw like the Adam Wingard movie whenever that came out in 2015. And yeah, that's it. So this was just a second time watch for me. Mike, I don't think you're a huge fan of found footage, but I'd be surprised if you didn't see this around the time when it came out.
Oh my God, girl. Okay. So yes, I'm not the biggest found footage fan. Yeah. I will admit that. We all know it. It's just not my jam. Partially because, I love like beautiful aesthetics, and they never have. Yeah, there's
by
virtue of the way they're shot. Yeah,
intentionally shitty looking is probably the aesthetic most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Which like I totally get, and it's fine. It's just unfortunately not what I go for. So, did I see this in theaters in 1999 opening night?
Oh shit!
Because I'm old.
I'm jealous.
Hang on now. I can do even better than that. Did I have an older brother who was into early piracy? Yes. Did he download and burn off a fucking CD, a 2-disc CD of this before it came out by like a month? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So my first time seeing this was literally sat at my brother's fucking desktop computer in the middle of the day when he was like at work on like a Saturday or something. Just nice. Full, in the afternoon, and it fucking scared the shit out of me. And I was telling everybody about it, and then like the marketing was out and everybody was like losing their minds, and I was like, I saw that already. And then it finally hit theaters, and everybody got to see, how spooky it was, and it was obviously a runaway fucking success.
Oh yeah.
And I was just there like, I saw this already, I know what's gonna happen. What about you, Ro?
I've got to say, we're really lucky to have someone on the podcast that's like so in tune with directors and artists that know how they want their visions to be watched. Watching Blair Witch on the computer, Jaws on your phone, just exactly like creators intended.
Oh, absolutely. In the full light. Like, I didn't even close the curtains or blinds or whatever. Like, I literally just sat there in the middle of the afternoon. It was like 1:30. My aunt was staying with us, and she was upstairs, like, knitting and just talking to my mom, and it's all I could hear.
I would say these filmmakers would probably be fine with that. It seemed like they were opposed to people watching in theaters until, the checks started coming in, and, it started doing incredibly well.
They're like, okay, yeah.
They kind of made it for shitty CRT TVs is what they said. So a computer monitor in that day and age isn't far off.
True. Now, I don't know if I saw this opening night, but I did see this in the theater. This was a Rhonda Fraser special. I remember going with mom and dad.
Nice.
And
a whole family affair.
And my aunt. And I think it's probably one of the most memorable movie theater experiences of my life. Talked the entire time, just cursing at the screen, calling everyone fucking idiots, and just like priceless. No. It made the movie like so much more. She was scared to death of this movie also. So like just screaming, all this kind of stuff. I remember coming out of this movie and coming home and mom being scared to go into the house and turn the lights on. Like, I remember this just terrifying everybody and seeing it. Obviously, physical media wise, this was a VHS I definitely had. In fact, I can tell you right now, in my house, I have at least 3 unopened VHSs of this. Wow. And one that is open recently, the Blu-ray. Because I will say, this is one of those ones that's extremely hard to get on physical media. Especially the Blu-ray is insanely hard. They, I don't know if we'll hit it when we're talking about the movie, but like a lot of infighting with rights and stuff as time went on with this.
Yeah.
So this is like notoriously why this hasn't been on 4K yet. Like people, it's just the rights are a bastard to try to deal with. The only way I have it on Blu-ray is I have it in like a set called like a haunting set that's like this Insidious, like that 1408 movie, like these random movies. And that's the way I own it. And like that's the only way I could find it. I found it at Value Village of all things, just unopened.
I will say, just because I just pulled it up to see, there's a Blair Witch Project Blu-ray Arrow Edition for $17 on Amazon right now.
So I'm going to tell you a secret. I almost bought that. Not a movie. Okay. It says Blu-ray. It's actually a book.
Oh my God. Okay,
it's shaped like a Blu-ray. There's no Blu-ray in it. It's just a book of essays about the movie.
Oh, you're right. Look at that at the top. On the spine, it says Arrow Books. All right.
Yeah, because I remember when they teased that, I got super excited. And then it was like, oh, actually, we couldn't get the rights to the movie, just this book. Yeah, very hard. But yeah, so kind of like Colton, though. I think I've seen this only a handful of times, maybe. I probably watched it when I bought it on VHS and maybe one other time. But that's kind of it. So... this it would have been at least, I bet you, 15 years since I've seen this. So putting it in was almost like a new time. But with that, why don't we roll the cameras, roll the, what is it, dad tapes?
Yeah, the DAT tapes. Yeah.
Roll the DAT tapes, cross the logs, and try not to fall in and talk about the Blair Witch Project. So I think the first thing, really, that we have to say is just... we're finally doing it. The behemoth of, I feel like many kind of wrongly say is like, the daddy of found footage. Definitely started the now modern trend of everybody doing found footage. Yeah, it's very much popularized it. So this is like, I'll let you know, watching this and prepping to talk about it, I was very excited because I was very excited for you, Colton, because I was just like, found footage is like your thing. It's always on the podcast. It's always been like Colton's the found footage guy. So I'm always curious where like stuff like this will end up landing with you. Like it's a little older, Lord forbid those 90s movies. You were in your VeggieTale days going on in the 90s?
When this came out, I would have been 7. Maybe, maybe 8, I guess, depending on when it came out during the year. But yeah, definitely too young to check this one out in theaters when it was released.
And to answer all the questions people have, like you would have been, like you said, like 7, 8 or whatever. People are always asking about Mike. I think 1999 Mike was 46. 45,
somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there.
He was writing his master's thesis.
We haven't yet cut the rings to see, but scientists estimate that it is round about 47 to 48.
Yeah, the throwback joke for like 2 years ago when I'm pretty sure Jill proclaimed that she thought you were way older on the podcast.
Oof. Yeah, that's tough. But yeah, for this one, we just talked about Peeping Tom a couple years ago, a couple weeks ago.
Seems like years ago sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, especially when you miss an episode or two. But I was kind of thinking, like, in terms of early found footage, obviously Peeping Tom exists. And then from a Google search, a lot of people credit Cannibal Holocaust as the first found footage movie, which I haven't seen in a minute. But in terms of like my recollection of it, it's kind of like I just credit this one as one of the early ones, the one that popularized it. Obviously, it's what made it commercial and made it very much everyone rush towards it. And then I think, rush out the sequel and probably instantly kill it until almost like the Paranormal Activity came out. But I mean, anybody who's in the found footage, if you're not checking out this movie and seeing what it gets right, I don't even know why you'd be making a found footage movie.
What's the British one? There's a British one too, isn't there? Like Ghost Hunters or something.
Oh God, I
Ghost
forgot about
Watch?
that. Yeah, Ghost Watch.
Watch,
That's excellent. But
I've never seen it, but I know that it's always like in documentaries and stuff.
It's like legendary, yeah.
Yeah, that's more so for mockumentary rather than just purely found footage, because it's a broadcast that they're passing off as like actual footage of ghosts captured. It's kind of like if you were watching your nightly news and the topic was that they found concrete evidence of ghosts and trying to convince the audience. Similar to like what this movie's doing with its whole missing campaign, like the marketing of like the people in this movie were
It's
dead.
not a real story like this movie.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But yeah, I mean, a similar thing for sure. But yeah, I mean, when I started this movie, I guess I'll just divulge right away that I was watching the bad version to watch this because I haven't seen it since, I don't know, it must be like probably close to 20 years, maybe. I don't know, somewhere around there, since I've seen it. Probably 15, 16 years, something like that, at least. And I just turned on a version called the Second Sight version, and I didn't know what that had meant, but it was kind of like up-res that looked really nice. It had full surround sound. It seemed to be from like a 2024 release, so I just thought it was like the 4K release of the movie. And I was watching it, and I was just like taking in these naturalistic performances and, the numerous interviews around the town of Burkittsville. And I was like, man, this is like a really strange way to start your movie. You're spending like 45, 50 minutes in Burkittsville just interviewing everybody. And I quickly found out that I was watching a 3-hour and 14-minute version of this movie.
Jesus Christ.
After sitting there for an hour and 15 minutes and they just made it past night 1 in the woods, I checked the runtime and I was like, there's no way this movie ends in like 5 minutes. And that's when I noticed that I was watching this version that makes it over twice as long. So I had to go back and watch the original version today with like the director's commentary on, just to kind of make it a little bit new. But regardless of that very long diatribe, I think the naturalistic performances in this movie of the main cast and the people of Burkittsville and some of the like planted actors and stuff is awesome. It's such a great way to kick off this movie. And all of the, I don't know, there's just so many like citizens in there that I love seeing their reactions to, being questioned about the Blair Witch.
The guys fishing are my favorite.
So those two are planted. Those two are actors. But like there's like the woman with the little kid, and the little kid's like picking his nose the entire time. Like that's just an actual woman they bumped into on the street, asked her about the Blair Witch, and she just had like this fake story right off the dome, just talking about
That's awesome.
the witch in the woods. Or there was one person at the restaurant or the diner. I think in the theatrical version, they're not in it, but there's a really good naturalistic performance there where they just go in and basically ask the hostess about the Blair Witch. And she's just kind of like, oh, I don't know. I haven't really heard much about it. Maybe you should ask the waitress or ask somebody else around here. There's just so many good little moments of bumping into people on the street that it's a really good way to kind of couch and set up this movie of what you're going to get into, because they all feel so real. There's not really a false note in those opening, 20 minutes of the movie, 15 minutes of the movie, setting it all up.
So I wonder if that stuff, because you were saying that was kind of like weaved in together. So that must have all been stuff that they had used originally in some of the documentary stuff. Because so I know on my Blu-ray, there's like 3 or 4 featurette special features. So one was like a mockumentary they made for the Sci-Fi Channel before the theatrical release that is like about the curse of the Blair Witch, and it's set up like one of those cheesy like murder mystery forensic files, so it looks real. Like I know they planted stuff on TV to try to make it look like that. And then there was a bunch of other ones I didn't like. There was one that was like the curse of what's the place called, Buskettville or whatever it's called,
Burkittsville.
Buskettville. A lot of buskers there.
I mean, I wound up watching the documentary of this movie afterwards and stuff too, so I know like too much about it now. Yeah. But it is the sort of thing where they originally planned to film the movie in 2 phases. Phase 1 was what we got as this movie, but originally it was only supposed to be 10 minutes of the movie they wanted to make. And then phase 2 was all of this mockumentary stuff of, police investigating their disappearances, interviewing like Wiccans, like people that delve in witchcraft, all this sort of stuff, and like basically building this case of what happened to them from the witch. And essentially in the editing room, they found out that second part of the movie was way worse than what they already recorded, because they had like 24 hours of these people wandering around in the woods and 3 hours of, this black and white footage that they could easily piece together to make a narrative movie. It was just not at all what the plan was. So I think some of like that stuff, like what you're talking about, like the curse of the Blair Witch or the kind of the split vision TV specials, was kind of a mixture of footage that they captured actually out in the woods, or footage from that, phase 2 of what they called it, where they were actually making the mockumentary that basically never made it into the final cut of the movie.
Yeah, well, and I think it helps too. Like, obviously, like you said, I feel kind of the same, where I'm like, I was like watching and reading kind of everything I could about it. So now, I feel like we're almost resident actual Blair Witch experts. So we'll be able to go film
to like
our
a certain degree,
soon.
but I don't want to sit here and just talk about all the production stuff of the movie, right? I can point out in terms of what I was watching today, of like every resident that they planted and what they told them to say and stuff. But to tell you the truth, it's like a 50-50 mix. Yeah, and a lot of what they recorded was they just directed Heather, the lead actress, to just walk up to random people and prompt them and ask them about the Blair Witch and see what they'd get. Literally like street photography, street work, just walking up to people, which for me, like just imagining myself doing that is incredibly anxiety inducing. I can't imagine walking up to people and shoving a big camera in their face like back in the day and getting favorable results from it every now and then, especially in such a small town.
It's just very interesting that there's not a lot of movies that we do that I'm like, I don't think you could do like before or after. Like, it's just like, it has to be in this time period that this like came out and released, which makes it like such this original kind of like artifact and interesting. And I was gonna say, I think, the performances are they did a good job of making it real. Like, obviously I'd read like some of the production notes that they just kind of like sent these guys out into the woods with a map, and like they actually did get lost, and having like very little script to go off of, trying to really improv it, and it works.
They filmed it over the course of 6 or 7 days. Yeah, out in the woods. Where basically they had a milestone to make every day to kind of get there, swap over the footage. Their tent would sometimes be set up for them, sometimes not. And essentially they'd get little film canisters, that like back in the day. I remember them, and I'm sure you guys do as well. But they'd get a film canister with the initial of the character on top, and then they'd read what is kind of like their motivation for the next day. So it'd be like, Heather's pissing you off, pick a fight with her today that you guys are going in the wrong direction, and everything else was improv. There was no like formal dialogue that I could tell, at least for like the main trio. Sometimes for the townspeople or whatnot, obviously, if they got to give you some piece of Blair Witch mythos. But in terms of like what they were doing out in the woods, it was very much like fly by the seat of their pants, and then on the editing room floor apparently is where they kind of pieced together a lot of it. But this trio, like, I don't want to get into all the drama after the fact, but it's like these people should have had a large cut of what happened in this movie. They should all be set up very well. The work that they did for this is insane, of like the acting, the dialogue, the filming, the sound recording, all of this shit. It's insane.
A whole ass film crew.
Whole ass film crew between the three of them. And they still had to give some of the most naturalistic performances I've seen on, like found footage.
I mean, so naturalistic that like legendarily, not just because of the marketing, everybody credits the marketing for blurring the lines. And, making people think, because, listen, I was there. Mm-hmm. I know, going to school the next day, people were literally talking about, oh my God, do you think it's real? Yeah. Like, I think they're real. Like, literally, it was like a cultural phenomena that people thought that this was a real thing that happened. And, I mean, listen, the marketing was clever, but it's the fucking performances.
They sell it.
They seem like real fucking people that just, happen to be filming themselves.
Yeah, and the thing is even when I watched it in 2008, 2009, probably would have been around the time frame I watched it, I knew of the Blair Witch Project, but I didn't know that conceit that it was fake, or really like what a mockumentary even really was at the time. Yeah. So when I watched it, it was literally, I watched it, was kind of bored, thought people just got lost in the woods, and then I was absolutely terrified by the kind of the ending, or more so when like Josh goes missing, and then obviously the whole standing in the corner thing that we'll get to eventually. Yeah. And I had to Google right away. if this was real or if it was fake, because, you know, I'm sitting there with a room of, you know, another 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 people watching this movie, and they're like, Colton, what the hell did you just show us? Did you show us a snuff film? We're all scared shitless, you know, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, obviously we were just high schoolers, but I think kind of the legitimacy or like how truthful this movie feels is it's largely on the back of these three kind of losing their minds in the woods.
Yeah, well, and I think, like you said, I mean, just like we keep lamenting, like these three are so good in it, and their breakdowns are, because the breakdowns probably are, you know, part real there. Obviously, like we said, they did all these things, you know, that they also, I was reading, like, every day they'd give them less and less food, so they were, like, more hungry, more tired. Some real, like, I kept thinking when I was reading that, I was just like, the real School of Kubrick thinking here, just...
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they cast for people that were purely into this, right? Like, basically, they had a thing where it was like, if you're not into camping, and if like sleeping outside every single day for 7 days doesn't sound comfortable for you because you want to be an actor, then leave. Like, don't even come in an audition. You're not for us. You know, if you don't like improv and you don't like fully immersing yourself in a character, like, leave. You're not cut out for this movie. It very much was like they were like living the suffering of their characters, you know, carrying 50-pound bags on their back, getting sick of having to live with one another and share a tent, and that resentment building, and also the confusion of not making it to the marker and the time that you wanted to make it to because so-and-so, you know, got lost, all this sort of shit. I mean, apparently a lot of the footage that just made it on the cutting room floor was either their cameras trained at the ground watching the trail for too long. It was just kind of boring if the whole movie is that. I mean, still a large part of the movie is kind of these trails weaving through the woods, or just bickering at each other. Specifically, Heather and Josh apparently hated each other like the whole time during filming, like they were too mean. And just in terms of a narrative film, you can't have your director kind of heckling your crew right from the bat, you know, so they like put the like blow ups further into the movie, but they were like, literally, if you just wanted to see the raw footage, it's going to happen like 5 minutes into the woods. You know, like they were at each other's throats, apparently.
I want to know, was your Survivor brain going off, Colton? Survivor fan Colton, where you're like, yeah, I could do it. Like, you know, you were thinking of better ways they could make camp and survive in the woods.
No, I mean, no, not really. I think this is kind of like a miserable experience to be in. I would have not signed up for the 7 days of hiking through the woods. I don't think. I mean, I'm not an actor anyways, but I think they did just fine, you know, with their few campfires and kind of huddling together for warmth and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I would have been scared shitless. I think even before some of these guys were scared shitless. Just, I don't know if either of you guys spent much time in the woods growing up, but when I was young, just this sort of primal fear of, you know, playing hide and seek in the woods and not being able to find one another, or kind of wandering away from the trail and having to find your way back. That sort of stuff really speaks to me. So when you watch a movie like this, and the fear itself is, sure, maybe some sort of supernatural force involved, obviously, by the end. But a lot of it is just people losing their minds and getting lost in the woods, which is a very legitimate thing that happens all the time. You know, I feel like it's a couple times a year we hear some sort of story about somebody went hiking and they're lost out west in Canada or whatnot, you know, and all search efforts are going to find them, right? So, I mean, this happens with very experienced people alone, a 3-person film crew without a compass, just following a map in the woods.
Yeah. Falling off a cliff.
I thought this watch was really interesting too, because I remember, you know, even though I was pretty young, like I remember seeing this in the theater, and I remember stuff like the tent shaking.
Yeah.
Like I remember that, like, fucking everybody up that watched this, like, holy shit, like this is insane. Like, you might as well have been watching Martyrs or something at the time. Yeah. Like, my brain
like
was
a
like,
snuff film.
This is the craziest, scariest thing I've ever seen. And I just think it's funny, just like, this was really a barometer for me of like just how desensitized we are now in 2026, where I'm just like, oh yeah, they're just shaking this tent and like, yep, that's real scary. And then I was like, the thing is like my mind has never let go of remembering how scared I was when I first saw this. And it's like, this really impacted me when I first saw this.
I mean, for the people that are playing these characters, though, that is almost like a primal fear as well, though. Like, they weren't told exactly what was going to happen. It'd be like, yeah, something's going to happen in the middle of the night. They'd all go to sleep and then wake up to their tent shaking at 4 a.m, or a boombox positioned far out in the woods of children's voices, or, you know, Josh screaming up on, you know, a cliff, you know, a half a mile away. You know, shit like this is just, I don't know. It is kind of like psychological warfare on your actors to a certain degree. Because we watch it and it's like, yeah, of course, there's 3 or 4 people shaking the tent. But still, at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., after you've been wandering in the woods for 3 or 4 days, food's dwindling, you're physically exhausted. I mean, it's a bit of a scarier scenario to wake up to, and then still they gotta bust the camera out, get the audio going, and, you know, perform.
And another great use, and I mean, that's where I've always said any found footage we talk about, you know, I always say I find it works the best with, am I seeing something? Am I not seeing something? Because obviously this movie's very dark. Like, we're using like old cameras. You don't see anything. And even like, I mean, you know, like I said, we're in 2026. It's been a long time since this came out, where I didn't even remember. I was like, do we actually see anything?
Yeah.
And I'm still watching it now looking like an idiot, like face up against the screen. I'm like, is there something out there that I can't see? Is my TV not picking it up? And just great use of like negative space in it and just creating that paranoia with nothing there.
I mean, there's these moments of happy accidents where I think it is following the tent shaking, where they start racing off into the woods and they're running like full sprint into the dark.
Yeah.
And Heather says something along the lines of like, oh my God, there it is. Or, oh my God, what is that? You know, she's screaming at like the top of her lungs, the shrill voice. And if you're looking, you can kind of vaguely see kind of like a white shape in the woods or a white figure. But apparently, like when they were filming, they wanted there to be like a very prominent figure in this scene, like kind of running next to her, almost like the ghostly apparition or something. And it's just, they flubbed it and the guy like fell into a creek. So it's kind of, they kept the take in. And it seems like there's something vague there, but there's certainly nothing as apparent as what they wanted. You know, it is largely sold on just the terror of the main characters and, you know, Heather's vocal performance to sell that moment of being as terrifying as it is.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing's great. And I think, too, when I talk about just this being cemented in my brain, obviously, you know, when everyone talks about like the close-up shot being like the iconic shot of this or whatever.
And it is, and we'll talk about it as well. But
yeah. But I was just gonna say, like, I just, it's kind of good, but also kind of sad for these guys. Like, this will never be unpaired with Scary Movie for me. Like, literally the minute I finished watching this, I was like, man, I gotta watch Scary Movie, the original one.
You know what's crazy? I still haven't seen Scary Movie 1 or 2. Man. I've only seen 3 and 4, and I don't know if there's a 5, but I've probably seen it.
Do not make me pick a Scary Movie for one of these. Oh, man.
You should.
I know. I should.
Yeah.
Listen,
double feature, Scary Movie 1 and 2.
I ride for the Scary movies, but yeah, they make fun of this iconic scene, and like to me that's one of the iconic scenes in Scary Movie, and it's kind of funny because in our group chat I was joking because I sent the Scary Movie gif of like her nose running and it's just like dripping snot like more intensely than the normal movie, but I always mix them up. Like I'm always like, oh, doesn't her nose run like way more in this movie? And it's like kind of embarrassing. Then I'm like, oh wait, no, that's Scary Movie that I'm thinking of. Just the chokehold in my brain of this.
I'm just shaking my head. Yeah, I mean, some of the things when I was watching it is I remember this movie in my head is a lot slower than it actually is. And once again, the version I watched last night first didn't really help me because we're an hour and 15 minutes in when they just set up tent. You know, like it's like you're getting past the first night where
that's
there's some
wild,
like, some rocks being thrown and branches snapping in the night, right? I'm like, God, they're all gonna be dead in like 10 minutes. How are they gonna pull this off? You know? But I mean, the actual version of the movie, I think it has a really good pace to it. Obviously, there's a little bit of wandering around and losing their minds, which I think there has to be.
Yeah.
But just kind of like the escalation of kind of stumbling across these graves that there's the same number to the amount of children that went missing. You know, that's like, okay, that's kind of a cool little detail. And, you know, coming across like the bundles of sticks or, you know, the stick people in the trees, which literally was like the art director pulling some shit together to try and figure out how to make a man, like a twig man with just a couple of twigs laid on top of each other because they wanted something more elaborate and he just didn't have the time or the budget to do so, and especially like lugging them miles out into the woods.
Yeah.
You know, all these kind of happy accidents and kind of like signposts along the way that I think it keeps the daytime stuff still a little bit interesting when you're watching it. Of course, it's a lot of the bickering and a lot of the cross talk and, you know, at each other's throats and, you know, the losing their minds. But I do think kind of the Blair Witch lore that's in here is still pretty neat. Like, you know, the smaller details, like the rocks in the trees where they're almost like nested in the trees. I'm like, I don't know really what that is, but it's a cool, like, little folk horror element that has now probably been carried forth, and I would assume the sequel in that Adam Wingard one as well. It's interesting how so much in this movie was just kind of stumbled upon in the moment and just thrown out there, or kind of like figured out the day before, and now it's so iconic, and in the movie it feels so purposeful that you know, I loved a lot of the little signposts along the way.
I always forget that the little stick figure men are from this.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny because I don't know what it is, but I feel like if you're like what would be after us, like Gen Z, Gen Alpha or whatever, like all the like horror YouTubers that are like way younger than me, there's so many that have like tattoos of that stick figure, and I've seen at least 10, 15, and I never know what it's from. I'm like, why, you know, are these guys part of a cult? Apparently they are. They're part of the
Well,
Blair
yes.
Witch cult.
Yeah.
But I never forget, and like you said, yeah, it's just, it's kind of this thing that's like really simple, but like gets the point across for the lore and the legend. I also like the delivery system of the package to them. It's just like the stick bundle, you know, with the rope or whatever, a cloth all tied around it.
Well, do you know what is wrapped around it? You're saying the cloth. I'm just curious. Did you
Is
put
it
together
skin
what it is?
or?
No, it's Josh's shirt.
Oh, is it okay? That
The
makes
fabric
sense.
of his
Yeah.
shirt is like bundled together by that.
It's
and then
like
they find the bloody
plaid-y
teeth
looking,
inside.
like
yeah, it's
flannel,
his plaid
yeah.
shirt. Yeah.
So what's it supposed to be in it? Is it like finger and ear? Like what's it supposed?
I think it's teeth, isn't it?
Is it teeth?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
teeth.
Yeah, I don't know. My eyes aren't trained for 1999 footage anymore, so.
Yeah, I was watching it just blown up on the big TV, and yeah, there's like, I don't know, it looks like a big wisdom tooth and then kind of two smaller teeth. But yeah, all bloodied, of course.
Did you feel like you were kind of betraying this? I did when I was watching this, like on the 55-incher. I was like, man, I kind of wish I just like CRT TV this VHS.
Well, at the time, I didn't feel bad about it because, like I said, I was watching that 2024 version at first, and then I swapped over to a much shittier version compared to what I was watching in terms of just quality. And I mean, it looked a lot worse, but then you listen to like the director's commentary and you watch the documentary afterwards, and they're basically just saying like, if you're not watching this on a CRT, you know, VHS, then you're not watching it the right way. That's the way we imagined it for. And it's one of the few directors or, you know, creatives in film that they're just like, watch it on the smallest, shittiest thing possible.
Shittiest thing,
essentially. Yeah.
Listen to the It Slays podcast and find out how Mike watches his movies, and then follow. Keep all your curtains open and all the windows.
Yeah.
When it's super sunny.
And Steven Spielberg is rolling in his grave.
Backing up, very silly moment. Did you guys all kind of like point at the screen when they mentioned Mary Brown?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay, all right. I was just
My
making.
queen.
I just had to point out. Obviously, I make reference to that in the opening of the episode. I just had the, you know, the famous Newfoundland chicken spot. You know, just
that's all I thought about. They should have done some sort of tie-in marketing once
Crossover,
Mary Brown's. Yeah, they would have been ingenious.
Been
they could have based their whole thing off that. I was gonna say, like, to me, like, just memories when I'm watching a flooding. Obviously, losing the map, like the whole freak out about losing the map.
Yeah.
I love that his explanation how the map went missing is just like, oh yeah, I got fed up with it because it wasn't working, so I kicked it into the creek.
Yeah.
It's like, you kicked a map into the creek? Like, It's just such a funny little Mike moment, who for a lot of the movie, he's kind of more of like the comedic relief, or at least he has these little one-liners and zingers that he's almost like the audience surrogate, where he keeps some levity in the movie when the other two are a lot more serious. And yeah, the fact that he's just kind of like thinks it's like hysterical and they're at this point of like wandering and losing their minds and like, yeah, just kicking the map into the creek. What a moment.
I'm going to be honest. I felt Heather's frustration because I was like, fucking Mike's always sabotaging your stuff and just fucking it up for everybody. I get it.
Very relatable. Very relatable.
Yeah, really. I did forget until this watch. I mean, obviously I said it's been so long since I've watched it, but I forgot that they hire Mike. Like, Mike is not their friend.
Yeah, he's a sound guy, right? Is what he's hired for, I think. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty like brave too. They pick him up, and it seems this is the first time they've met him. Like, they might have corresponded over email. I thought it was pretty brazen when you go pick up a guy you don't know and you're already making fun of his mom when you roll down the window.
It's good stuff, right?
Yeah, 1999.
They just hit it off.
Yeah. Do they? Yeah, maybe.
I like some of the explanations, because now we've gone all the way back to like the beginning, but I like some of the explanations for like the technical flubs in the movie as well. There's a moment there when Josh, it's literally when they're recording Mary Brown, and he screws up the stops on the camera, and she's in really soft focus and it's focused on the background, like the trailer. And then there's a moment 5 minutes later where they're talking about, you know, the meters and feet and whatnot on the camera. You know, it was the wrong like numbering system. You know, I think it was like the US numbers were in brown. And yeah. I love that shit where essentially they're like, oh God, I screwed up that whole recording. I have to now come up with some rationale as to why it's all out of focus, because if they choose to keep it in the movie, you know, there has to be this idea here. I love like little moments like that. And once again, it just lends to the authenticity of like what you're watching.
But they sell it. Yeah. Like you really truly like do not know.
I will say though, like they rented this equipment out, and they're supposed to be university students, right?
Film students.
Yeah. Film students. I don't know.
Like Heather is literally an aspiring director in this, right? And that's why she has her like documentarian voice that she does that I love, where it's like,
oh my God, that her first time on camera.
Yeah, like the insufferable, self-important film student, like they're making the great work of our time, kind of walking into frame and looking at the camera and stuff, you know, that she does at the graveyard, or she does at Coffin Rock, or those sorts of things. I love all those little details. It does feel like
I call it the Philomena Kunk.
Yeah, for sure.
Coffin Rock's just a banger name too. Just like that's what you name your spot in your movie. I was just gonna say, I don't know if I've ever met a university student ever when I was in university, non-university, that ever really cared about deadlines or when things were due back they borrowed, or
true.
That was the only unrealistic thing about this.
That is a little bit of a pain point at one spot in the movie. You mentioned Coffin Rock though, Rowan. So originally they called it Hunter's Ridge is where they were supposed to be going. And when they got there, they didn't like the ridge wasn't prominent enough. So on the fly they called it Coffin Rock, because apparently there was a coffin-shaped rock in the river that was positioned in such a way that they thought it was creepy. But then the people that went there, they didn't film Coffin Rock, and they actually filmed more of like the caves and whatnot. So it's funny, when I was listening to the director's commentary, they were like, yeah, we just came up on the fly to call this Coffin Rock, but they didn't even film the rock. So whatever, at least the performances are good, sort of thing, you know?
Like I said, it's a great name for a spot. It's like a believable name for a spot. It just, you know, in the
and the
woods
bit
there.
of lore that they come up with there and read, you know, where essentially it's like it's like the 6 people that are bound, like hands to feet all stretched out.
Yeah.
And, you know, after they come back in a couple hours time, they've all vanished, but the stench of death is still there. It's obviously like this heightened language and very clearly trying to freak out the audience. But I do like, once again, the mythology and lore that I think they like dip their toes into once again, and probably more like the Wingard movie.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, some interesting stuff in here for sure, especially where a lot of it is off the cuff or, you know, written down like the night before, you know, in your journal or something.
I feel like we need like an alarm bell, like Pee-wee's Playhouse, when anyone says the special word of the day and then like an alarm goes off. So when you were just discussing about people's like arms and feet being bound. We have an alarm. It's like human centipede alert. Human centipede alert.
Oh my god, I fucking knew it.
Yeah, she's basically describing almost the human centipede.
Maybe Blair Witch was getting these guys in on a little poo eating there.
Well, we never do see ultimately what happens to them, I guess. So it could be something like that. And Josh is missing his teeth, which it is something for the human centipede. They break all the front teeth out.
Is this a prequel? A human centipede prequel? Maybe
you can work on that, Rowan. I'm not touching it.
No, I like that. I like that. I was gonna say we went by a little bit, but I just want to say in general, someone should have gave some sort of award to Mary Brown, just because
very eccentric.
She was my favorite part of the entire movie. Like so
coming
believable.
Out with the Holy Bible with a weird gate on the front of her, trailer.
Every rural area has one of these people.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, totally 100% buy-in at that point.
It's another thing where they put out a casting call and only one person showed up, and she was the one.
Hell yeah. Just fate. Well, then that's why people tell you, stuff like this is just luck. It's 100% luck to be able to, crank this out. The abandoned house, also fantastic. As a person that did spend a lot of my childhood, I had a grandfather that, had me in the woods all summer long. I'd be gone for months on end. Just in the woods. That sounds creepy. I was in a cabin, but we'd explore the woods and stuff. But I just love this because you come across this all the time in rural areas, just old houses, decrepit houses. And obviously I had read, I'm sure the director talked about it too. It was just there. They just kind of, it was already in the woods. It's always great when you have a set piece already there.
What's funny about it is you say it was there. It was just in the woods. Different park. Not the same park that the rest of the movie was in. So they had to do a thing where they abduct them in the middle of the night, put them in a van and bring them elsewhere. So, it was in the woods and it was just there and they were able to use it. It just wasn't they would have never made it there if they were walking. The movie would be, 10 days long, if they'd have to walk all that distance. But yes, a great set piece that they found. A lot of work put into it, apparently reinforcing things and erasing graffiti and bringing children in to put black handprints around it, dressing it like a set. But obviously the bare bones of this basically what, a $35,000 budget. You'd never be able to build even the facade of something like this to this quality for this sort of movie. But before we get into the specifics of the house, we do have to back up to the snot bubble Heather scene.
Yes, okay, let's talk about snot bubbles.
Because the authenticity of this movie, obviously, there's loads of scenes, and a lot of it is the bickering and crosstalk and little lines of dialogue and whatnot. But this scene, it's a reason why it's on the cover of the movie posters and whatnot, right? Obviously, yes, there's the snot bubble. And there's the tears, but man, just what a vulnerable, incredible performance. Once again, not scripted, not rehearsed, just off the top of her head, very defeated, broken after 5 or 6 days in the woods, just, talking straight down the lens to the camera. I didn't see Scary Movie, so when I was watching this, I could still appreciate just how excellent it was. Yeah. But it is one of the main scenes of the movie. Obviously, I think most people would instantly think about the ending. But if you think about what's the next scene in the movie you think of, for me, it would be Heather in the tent. Absolutely.
Just an absolutely incredible monologue.
Yeah.
World class.
Yeah.
Should be taught in acting classes.
Yeah. And once again, in terms of what she was performing, it was probably written down at the end of your day, breakdown that Josh is gone and you're kind of hopeless and you don't know if you're ever going to get out of this. Yeah. Right. Sort of thing. And then she spins this up, right? I don't know, this trio, something special for sure in this movie.
Yeah, just to be creating on the fly these things that are instantly iconic.
Yeah.
It's not like it became entrenched, it was literally instantly in pop culture.
Yeah.
Obviously, to the point where Scary Movie is parodying it.
Yeah, it's what other modern day horror movies have we seen? An actual studio production or even an indie thing where somebody looks this vulnerable and, upset, eyes puffy, snot coming out of their nose, tears down their cheeks, all disheveled. once again, no makeup team, no nothing, just there doing it.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know if I'd really be able to think of an example off the top of my head. Even with like a makeup team trying to make somebody look this way, like there was no. That's just the way she looked, it was crazy.
Yeah, well, and like you said, it's crazy that I think the performances are all that good, and then as we hinted at, all three of them couldn't really like roll this into anything of like major note, just like a crime, really. I was gonna say Josh, I think, has
Josh is fairly successful.
Yeah, he's probably got the heaviest filmography, and I know her. She like has like a weed company or something now, or she was doing that. I remember seeing a thing maybe 10 years ago, like on one of the anniversaries, because I know she changed her name, because of course they all use their real names in this, and I know she was not thrilled, so she changed her name. And has a weed company. And Mike, he runs like a theater or something, just like a town theater.
Yeah, he does acting. He also worked, I think, in the school system at some point as like a guidance counselor or something like that as well.
That'd be wild. And
essentially, all these people made this movie. They all signed a contract that apparently said something along the lines of, if it ever makes over $1 million, they'll each be given 1% of the profits. After the first summer that it was released, they got like a performance check of like low 5 figures, each one of them, which of course is like a nice little check. But you got to remember, this movie made like $240 million. So making like 20 grand, after you were paid.
It was making what like a big budget studio movie would make.
Yeah, exactly. Right. For a much lesser budget. So everybody should have been very well compensated that, invested in this movie, because it was kind of groundswell investment of just like doctors and dentists and shit like this. It wasn't like traditional film people backing it. Other than, I think there was like half the investment of selling kind of a sizzle reel to a channel on TV that helped fund it. But like these three people, I don't understand how they still haven't just been given like, oh, here's $1 million or $2 million each. That would be fucking nothing for Lionsgate to give to these people now. Instead, you have them like coming out 25 years later talking about how like they can't make their rent. They never really had much of a career after this because all their real names were used. They were harassed because, once again, they were very easy to find. I don't know. It's like, once again, you watch a movie like this, I was completely swept up in it. And then after the fact, I just had to consume the documentary or read up on the drama and the lawsuits and all this sort of thing. And it's just, I don't know, to make a movie like this and be compensated 5 figures, like, after the summer came out, like, once again, when in the trades, it's like so-and-so producer of the Blair Witch Project just got a $40 million check, and then to be making the lead of the movie who, gave an incredible performance, shot so much of it, made sure the audio was working, and once again, signed up to a movie that they were going to be 10 minutes of the footage because they were like they were just the gone missing footage. They weren't the movie.
Yeah.
To then realize that like, oh no, I'm the whole movie and my whole life is going to change. And just, I think at one point they sued them when the sequel was coming out and they each got like $300K, which once again, I understand that's a lot of money when we talk to, when I'm just throwing it out on the podcast. None of us are making $300K a year, so that's a huge amount of money. But in comparison to $250 million when you've done the lion's share of it and your life is going to be more or less ruined would probably be too hard of a word for it, but like severely affected for the next, 20 years. I mean, that's crazy. These people should have been handsomely compensated and all been producers or executive producers on any piece of media that says Blair Witch from then until the end of time. It's insane.
What a terrible spot for you not to promote the Patreon and be like, if you want us to make $300,000 each.
I don't know if we have the numbers if everybody was giving like $100 a month if we'd make $300K a year. But I mean, I guess, if you want to help support the show, patreon.com/It's Lace Podcast, why not?
Colton's trying to reach his $300,000 goal.
So absolutely.
Please get that to him.
Yeah, we get $300K and then we can make 10 Blair Witches.
That's right.
That's what we'll do.
But what I was going to say when I was bringing up the house was all I could think about was a modern parent's nightmare. But I was thinking like, even I would have only been like 12 in 1999, like 11, 12. I'm like, exactly the kind of place my parents didn't care that I was playing in. Like, definitely playing in abandoned places in the woods.
Oh, absolutely.
That I'd probably die. So I just realized I'm one of those people, you know? I'm just like, I'm now basically a boomer now, where I'm like, back in my day.
We used to play in condemned houses.
Dirty, decrepit cabins in the woods, essentially, yeah. Rotting houses. I mean, I absolutely, growing up in Labrador is the same thing. I literally had a couch outside near my aunt's house that was like, you know, you kind of walk through the woods for 2 or 3 minutes and there's just an old Chesterfield sitting there that we literally found like a porno page in when we were like way too young to like know what this is, right? So like these sorts of like dumping grounds and just like things left to rot in the woods, you know, in Labrador growing up, it was commonplace. There was loads of like half-built cabins and, you know, stuff like that, and a lot of stuff abandoned by the Americans and whatnot all over the place, like on the old base and stuff like that. It was very cool for that, like urban exploring, I guess, before it was really a thing.
So I was gonna say, bringing that up, like, you know, in talking about, I guess, kind of the third act of this in the house and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think we're getting Josh screaming, and, you know, these guys are pretty good, because I was like, I would have no idea what direction any of these sounds are coming from. I just get more lost in the wood. Let's be real. I'd go back to sleep. I'd be like, wake me up in the morning.
I love that the
wake
guy
me up when
that
I'm
does
dead.
The audio editing for our podcast is not good with sound.
Yeah.
I mean,
that
might say something.
I will say, if you're gonna watch this, definitely. I had the headphones in, and great movie for headphones. Mm-hmm. Just really adds to the ambience. Yeah,
I mean, they talked about that as well, that apparently the microphones on the cameras were just naturally really good and recorded stereo sound. So when they'd be reviewing the dailies every now and then, I mean, you know, they were talking about they were getting upwards of like 20 hours of footage, you know, a day between the two cameras, right? You know, they review what they can, but they were talking about how the audio mix just naturally capturing the forest was incredibly creepy. And, you know, it was like way better than what they expected. They thought like most of it would have to be Foley and added after the fact, but a lot of the ambiance was already there.
But yeah, I mean, once we get into the house, I was like, this, you know, it's creepy. It still works, I think.
And like, you know, 5 minutes of the movie, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's just, yet again, like, I couldn't remember. Do we see anything in the house? Like, what do we get? Not really. You're just getting these, you know, like, kind of grainy.
The handprints are so fucking creepy.
Handprints are always super creepy. And it just gave me so much vibes of, like, I was thinking about younger kids that are into, like, analog horror on YouTube and stuff. And I'm like, how this stuff can really still work, where like you don't necessarily have a monster that you see, that you don't have to have anything, that it's like purely on the look and the vibes and the sound design and everything, that you can create this spooky atmosphere. And, you know, not once are you showing any sort of monster. You're just given the thoughts that there is something there. The witch is there. And she's just trying to borrow a razor. That's all she's trying to do. She needs a razor, some hair clippers, something.
She needs a machete.
By the sounds of it, apparently. Yeah. But yeah, did you guys watch, like, I know I know, Mike, you watch this online, so it probably wouldn't have been on there, but on my Blu-ray, it had all 5 alternate endings.
So after you mentioned this, I searched it up and watched them, you know, very quickly before we recorded. So I've seen them all now, but I've also heard them discuss some of their other options that they were going for. And, you know, since we're getting into the discussion of the ending, I mean, it's excellent and very scary. But when they were leading up to it, there's like embryonic footage of this movie where they're trying to figure out, just like 4 dudes sitting around a table, like before any of the actors are cast, how do they even end a movie like this? And they're coming up with stuff like, oh, well, maybe the camera just gets pulled through the air like it's being, you know, possessed or something, and then we cut. Or, oh, maybe a hairy hoof comes across or something like that, and then we cut. And basically what's really interesting about this, and kind of inspirational for like anybody who's doing indie filmmaking, is just they never had an idea. They got to this ending, they didn't have a clear idea of how they wanted to end the movie, and they just filmed like 4 or 5 things. They were like, let's have one where he's levitating. Let's have one, and the levitating looks really bad.
Yeah,
he's kind of like framed like one of the sticks in the woods, stick people in the woods, but like his legs are very blurred out because he's probably just standing on a box or something. It's like one he's like hanged, one he's in the corner, one he's looking at them, one, it's just all these different versions, and basically they just found through the edit what worked for the movie.
And they landed on the right one.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Horrific. Yeah.
And the way it's accomplished too, like once again, like this is scary shit. Like if we're believing the way that people, the way these filmmakers are telling it, like for the actors, like this is terrifying. So obviously they knew that the movie was going to end when they go down into the basement, but they weren't told the specifics of what was going to happen in the basement. So Mike goes downstairs, and as soon as he rounds the corner, there was one director on one side, one director on the other side, and they were both dressed in complete black. One of them grabbed the camera, and the other one tackled him. So just like you're in the basement in the pitch black, you get tackled and the camera ripped out of your hands, and then you're like whispered in your ear like, "Oh, it's us. Don't worry. Like, go stand in the corner." Right? And then he goes and stands in the corner. And once again, similarly, Heather comes downstairs. She actually sees him just standing in the corner, and then she's tackled as well. And it's just, it's crazy, like, not to have, like, all the prep beforehand. Like, even, once again, like, putting yourself in that mind frame for 6 or 7 days filming this, that would be fucking terrifying. I would be terrified about just not wanting to break the camera, alone what I'm seeing and, the whole set piece around it. Just a crazy filmmaking achievement. And then obviously after they did the initial one, they did 4 or 5, 6 other takes of it and whatnot. And of course, I'm sure it's less scary each time you do it, but it's very cool the way they accomplished this, I thought, and very effective.
I think out of anything, the end holds up the most. It's just like an effective piece of horror.
And you know what's great about it as well? Because like, once again, they had no plan for this ending. The last thing they shot for this movie, like 6 months after I think everything else, was that one guy in the town, which was not in the town. It was just it was an actual actor, and they fed him like the Blair Witch lore that he had to talk about, like the missing kids and the standing in the corner and, facing the corner because he didn't want your eyes on you and all this stuff. And they found that after the fact, after the movie was completed. They were like, okay, we like this standing in the corner ending. We feel like this has something, but it has to be set up somewhere else in the movie. And, they had the foresight and the knowledge to go do that to make it so it all makes sense and it's completely like coherent and cohesive by the end. And like a really scary ending. It's great. I don't know. It's like genius. I'm glad he didn't levitate, or I'm glad that we didn't see a witch in the basement or something like that. It's all there already to me. I feel like, we know they're not acting normal and there's some sort of under some spell or something like that. It's great already the way it is.
They really more like let your mind become a like playground.
Absolutely.
With the possibilities, which is way more terrifying.
Yeah, whatever we can think of is scarier than probably whatever prosthetic effect they would have put for a witch.
Exactly.
And I was going to say, I had written down too, because when this was done, I was just kind of sitting with it and thinking about the cultural impact of it. Mm-hmm. And the 3 things I written down were 3 titles of, I was like, these like don't exist without the Blair Witch Project. And I had thought about Cloverfield. Mm-hmm. I had thought about Wreck.
Yeah.
And I had thought about Paranormal Activity, obviously. Paranormal Activity, I think, would owe the most to the Blair Witch Project. But this is where I thought it was interesting, because now watching it, it's so hard to, I find, separate it as a movie on itself of just seeing the influence. Like, I thought about when we talked about things like, when we talked about Frankenstein and like, that, I can't remember that. I think it was like Jill's first time seeing Frankenstein. It might have been like my first time fully seeing it. But it's like, just when like the blueprint of these movies are like in so much of the modern movies that you're seeing all the time when it comes to found footage. It's just like, it's crazy to think everything we've talked about, the budget, like the luck, everything. And it's just like this then literally influences everything in this genre of horror from then on, just because these guys decide to make this movie.
Oh yeah, I think it's incredibly influential and obviously like spurned a whole genre like in Hollywood. I do think Whereas with Frankenstein, I think a lot of people rip things directly from Frankenstein, you know, or they're like paying homage to it, that it's much easier to point. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's Victor Frankenstein and the creature. You know, I understand what you're doing. You know, oh, man's the monster, not the creature. There's a lot of things directly from Frankenstein that people rip whole cloth from and just kind of give like a new coat of paint. Like, I do struggle to think of what's another movie where the big scare is someone standing in the corner. It's like, okay, well, of course, sometimes there's horror hidden in the corner, you know, a monster in the corner, a ghost in the corner or something, but never like really like this way, like stood back on in the corner, or even like a lot of found footage movies where people are losing their minds. Sure, the woods might factor into it, but it's not like the prominent main location. Or if it is in the woods, it's like very obvious they're being pursued by something all the time. There's, you know, there's a monster in the woods with them, you know, picking people off or something. It's not just the natural kind of your mind breaking down, the degradation of like your mental the entire time you're in the woods. So I think it's interesting where it is very influential and probably legitimized this whole genre of horror, but I don't think anyone really completely whole cloth has ripped it off 100%, you know, like even to like a really shitty degree, at least that I've seen, you know.
No, I agree. Well, I think about even, you know, obviously, like I said, the most common thing you would think of is Paranormal Activity, but like even Paranormal Activity had to like show you things to be like, here's the scares. Where, like we said, with this, you don't you hear some yelling, like some giggling, but you don't ever like see anything. It's always just implied that, you know, there's this stuff going on in the woods, and I can't really think of anything that has been able to do that or even attempted. And it's one of those things where like, why even attempt it, I guess, because you're just gonna get compared to this.
I'm quickly scrolling through like the best found footage horror movies list just to see if there's like some big one that was set in the woods that I don't know about. But I mean, there was like basically one there, Willow Creek, which is a Sasquatch movie, which I remember it is very similar to this, of like a bunch of people lost in the woods and they're kind of trying to capture footage of the Sasquatch, like record it, like actual, you know, prove it's real. But I mean, I don't think it's really ripping off the Blair Witch Project. It's just in the woods. And I mean, once again, there's very much a Sasquatch in that movie stealing people and whatnot. So it's a bit different, you know. I will say, in terms of like what we've discussed on the podcast, I think every single time we've done a found footage movie, you know, even mentioning, you know, as we said, like Peeping Tom or whatnot, or obviously like Lake Mungo, it's impossible to talk about those sorts of movies in the framing of found footage without mentioning Blair Witch. So I am happy that we've actually covered it on the podcast, just because it has been one that we've definitely invoked the name of many times to compare it, but just have never really given our thoughts on it. It's just a shame that
it's been
Jill,
like a ghost haunting a lot of our picks.
Exactly. You know, I just wish Jill was here to kind of give her full thoughts on it as well when we were discussing it. I have one last question. I was just curious because we've tiptoed around it. Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Have you guys seen it? Or the Adam Wingard movie afterwards, like the...
I have seen Book of Shadows. I remember renting it.
Okay.
I don't remember it whatsoever. Like, I can't tell you one single thing about it. I know the cover. I feel like I might have rented it and then fell asleep or something. Like, watched it one night and fell asleep. So I'm going to say I, like, haven't seen it. And I did not see the Wingard one. It was one I'm interested in because I am a Adam Wingard fan. Like, I like his stuff generally. I've also never played the video game, which I have been interested in playing the video game.
What about you, Mike?
I haven't seen the newer one. It's actually weird because I really wanted to, and it's been on my list, but it kind of came and I didn't get a chance to see it immediately, and for whatever reason, it just sort of like fell under the pile of to be watched. I did, however, see immediately Book of Shadows, and honestly, I was in the minority, but I haven't watched it because I saw it as soon as it came out. I haven't seen it since, but at the time I really liked it because it was so different. And I mean, I was like literally, and I mean, this was like not when you had Letterboxd or anything. Like you were, you know, some people were probably still using dial-up at that point to get online, so you were not like going on social media and getting everyone's opinion. But even then, I knew I am in the minority on liking this movie. I don't remember that much about it. I remember the like twist at the end.
Don't spoil it because I might watch it sometime.
I won't. And I will say that it prominently features a great song from one of my favorite albums of all time, Haunted by Poe, which, speaking of weird, creepy houses, is the companion album to her brother's massively influential cult horror book, House of Leaves, Mark Danielewski.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's kind of a weird 6 degrees of separation between House of Leaves and the Blair Witch because of that.
Oh,
I know there's like a growing online community that kind of holds it up as like this cult thing. I mean, there
that's
is
the
for
case
anything.
with every single
But
bad
people saying that
movie
it kind of got a
eventually,
bad
you know.
shake. Because if I remember correctly, it goes off, like it's not found footage, right?
No, it's not. It's like a
it's like
legit,
an actual
like, studio movie.
Yeah. So I think it just, people weren't ready for it not to be found footage.
I think, and I could be wrong, because again, I haven't seen it. I'm going to rewatch it now because I've rewatched this one.
Yeah.
But I think that they tried to. I'm making this up in my head, but I feel like at the time I remember they did use like kind of amateur actors, even though it was like kind of a studio.
Yeah. Trying to
setup.
probably reclaim the magic of the original.
Yeah, sort of like not like giving it a budget, but trying to like get that lightning in a bottle again.
Okay.
And obviously not succeeding.
I've never seen Book of Shadows. I have seen the Adam Wingard movie. I feel like I've told this on the podcast before, but whatever. It's the Blair Witch episode. When I saw the movie, it had its world premiere at TIFF, and it was called The Woods, I think, or The Forest, or something like that. And I walked into the movie, watched the movie, obviously about midway through realized it's a Blair Witch movie, of course, but like the whole audience was figuring it out at the same time. And when you left the theater, they had the outside of the theater lobby all done like the forest with all the little like
nice.
The stick men all around, and then outside kind of the steps and stuff as well. Like the red carpet was redone to all be Blair Witch and stuff. And very cool screening to be at, like one of the most memorable screenings I've been at. In terms of the movie, I don't remember it being all that remarkable, but just kind of the energy in the room and leaving the theater and kind of being, trapped in a much more budget version of The Woods as you're leaving it, I thought was very cool. Like it was definitely one of the more ambitious TIFF screenings I've been at in terms of what they did after the movie. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, I probably should rewatch that one as well at some point. But yeah, very, very notable screening at TIFF for that.
We'll just keep picking Blair Witch movies. Then when we do the 3, then we'll pick the mockumentaries, and we'll just keep it going.
There you go. Hold out for the next 5 minutes when I announce my pick.
Yeah. So with that, we'll land the plane and get into rating this. So if you're new to our podcast, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. We're going to start with you, Mike. What is your rating of 1999's The Blair Witch Project?
I'm going to give it a slay. This is probably not surprising. It's such a classic in general, and to me, I was at the perfect age for like being aware of like the marketing and stuff, and just even though the original way I saw it was not ideal, it's still like I vividly, it's one of my like foundational, like it's a lore movie watching experience for me, because I was telling people like I watched this sat at a fucking desk with a 1999 fucking PC monitor, and it still made me like I had to get up and go upstairs and like hang out with my mom and my aunt because I was so fucking creeped out. And that has happened so rarely just in any movie in general. So, and then seeing it in theaters was like, it did not dull the experience knowing what was going to happen, because, you were in this like packed theater, like just full of people, and it was fucking wild. And I just think it's like so brilliant because, it's like you said, it's carried on the backs of these 3 people essentially, and a handful of others. But like, let's face it, like the movie would not be what it is without them.
It lives and dies by these 3 people. Imagine if they were bad actors. That's it.
Yeah. and like they do not get enough credit for turning in these like phenomenal performances and essentially writing the movie. And I just think that's such a like anomaly, and it was so lightning in a bottle. And like, I just feel like we really haven't seen anything like it since, and there was nothing like it before. And you could say that about a lot of like kind of seminal watershed films, but like this truly is something special, and no found footage has ever recreated the magic that this has for good reason. So I think it's such a like broke the mold moment, and it's a slay. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, this was a strange one for me because once again, when I watched it for the first time last night, the first time in many years last night, it took me 2.5 hours to get through an 81-minute movie, right? Because of just watching that weird cut. And when I was watching, I was like, man, they spend a lot of time in the woods. Thankfully, when I watched it again today, because I was like, I can't do this movie disservice. I have to at least watch the first 30 minutes from its inception just to see like how the pacing is. And just watching it with the director's commentary on a second watch within 24 hours and kind of delving into all of the behind the scenes and just seeing how unique and how singular this movie is. It is like magic that it came together the way it did. Obviously, we're giving the three leads their flowers. There was obviously a lot of work put in by the two directors to find the story on the cutting room floor, but I have to give it a slay. After is it an absolute masterpiece? Do I love everything in it? No, but I do think it's singular, and I think it's impossible to talk about found footage horror and truly love found footage horror, in my opinion, without at least loving this movie to a certain degree. It's just, it's so influential. I think the three performances are excellent. The way it was made, I've never heard another movie made this way, of just like kind of dropping your audiences in the middle of nowhere, giving them signposts along the way, and then, kind of director's notes to get performances out of them, but not being there to supervise it. It's so strange to me as someone who's been working in, a traditional, not Hollywood system, but traditional filmmaking system for the past, 5 years or so, that it was amazing to me to see how scrappy this was and what they've kind of accomplished. And, how even 25 years later, 26 years later, whatever, it still resonates. And that ending is still like an all-timer. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a slay. Rowan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're doing it a disservice, like you said, for all the things you guys have talked about, if you don't come in with the slay, which I think is interesting, because as I was sitting on it, I did plan on coming in with a yay, like probably immediately after, because I thought about, I was getting my very critical Colton on, but I kept thinking about, I'm like, what are like straight up slays to me, like The Shining, like movies that literally I will always sit down and watch, and it's always a good time for me. But like we've said, it's such a singular movie that like nothing else has like really created a memory like this, or for the collective, that like the closest thing I could kind of think of was how like my grandmother talks about like when they saw The Exorcist in the theater, and how it was really like this singular moment for everyone that went and saw that, and the shock and awe. And yeah, this is it's a movie that can never be replicated because of the internet. Like it just wouldn't work anymore. How prominently, like this, TikTokers would be debunking this for the views so
Could
quickly.
You imagine how insufferable this would be if it was just 3 people in the woods with their phones just wandering around shouting one another?
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because one thing that's really made me think about this has been the upcoming, getting ready for the upcoming release of Backrooms, and just like how singular of a thing that is for internet culture. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, they're going to make this movie, and it's just like, you just know it's not going to be the same as, on YouTube looking at the Backrooms and stuff. And it's like I said, with technology, this movie, like, it wouldn't make any sense. People, why wouldn't they have a cell phone? Why wouldn't they have a GPS? Like, something like that. It's of its time, and for that time, it's just influential, and it really is perfect, and it has its moments that are still so scary. So yeah, I'm gonna also give it a slay. So 3 slays, and with that, we told you what we thought about it, and we asked what you thought about it, and we did get some answers. So on Facebook, we had a friend of the podcast and someone that I am finding you an episode that we will get you on, Patrick. He said he's ready. He's ready to make a return to our podcasts.
Sweet.
He said, capital letters, slay, still holds up all these years later. Feels like something you shouldn't be watching. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, we didn't get into the whole like snuff film discussion. We mentioned it in passing, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people watched it through that lens, especially like in the pirated version that Mike was watching. That it is widely known that like a film reel got out after Sundance and made its way online and kind of made the rounds.
And then I would go in order, but I want to switch it up a little bit. YG, we say OG James, YG James wrote, and
YG James,
YG Young James, the newer patron, James.
All right.
He wrote and said, always saw it as a trashy Nature Channel movie.
That is one thing we didn't talk about in our discussion, that the movie does have its detractors. It is one that if you look on Letterboxd, largely, I would assume most people's friends list, it's not going to be all like 4s and 4.5s. There's a lot of people that are like, this is too boring, too much wandering around in the woods, too much bickering. And I do that is kind of some of my little detractors with it, but it doesn't outweigh the rest of the movie for me whatsoever.
I mean, I 100% agree. I really do think too, like the age thing affects it. Like, I think if you were around that time, it's just cemented for you.
If you watch this before Letterboxd existed,
yes,
and you saw that everyone's kind of saying, "Oh, that's the scariest movie ever," everyone believed they actually died and all this stuff. If you watched it before that groundswell, I would say you probably have a more favorable opinion on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, watching it in like 2026 for the first time, I think that'd be a bit of a tough watch.
And then G.Y. Lee, someday I'll figure out is it Guy Lee or just G.Y. Lee. It's G.Y. Lee. I like it. They said, slay. The Blair Witch Project really feels like lightning in a bottle that we'll never get again. It came out at the perfect time, right on the transition time of the internet age. I was in middle school when I saw it in the cinema. I genuinely thought it was real.
And we didn't mention, the internet age, but this was one of the first movies that showed that a fervent fan base online, like around like an official website, really translated into box office. And then obviously from then on out, production companies and producers are always trying to cultivate some sort of online fan base to capitalize on. So double-edged sword with that one, I guess.
Yeah.
That's right. And then over on IG, we had J. Margot Critch write and say, I saw it in its original run in theaters and still count it as one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, I feel I said the same thing. It was definitely scary in the theater. Horror Hound Holly P. wrote in and said, love it, slay. Sparked my obsession with found footage.
Awesome.
So, I kind of sad to hear that it helped you have bad taste, but we'll let it slide. And then, we had friend of the podcast, Josh from TerraVision, write in and said, this is a super banger. Still trying to make it a reality at TerraVision. And like I said, whether or not
before we started
recording, that I know this is like a pain in the ass to get the rights to, just like the physical media releases of it. So that does not surprise me that it's been hard. And then we had someone write in a comment, not a question, but a comment, which we also love. We had Julia R. Morris 11 write in, and they said, I went to Burkittsville. It was really cool. Have to check out the forest they filmed in, too.
Ooh.
So what I'll say is, I was waiting for the right time to bring this up, but people in Burkittsville absolutely hated that this movie featured their town even in a small degree, because once again, they thought it was going to be this little indie movie that might get sold to like TV, to be shown a couple of times over the years. They didn't expect it to be this phenomenon, and then basically the town of Burkittsville, which was not renamed from Blair, as the lore of the movie says. They're just getting pestered by these weirdos seeking the Blair Witch throughout the years. And apparently it's only recently, like, they got a mayor that even, like, respects the movie in any regard. And then some of the town has been a little bit more open to it. Apparently the forest that they filmed in isn't near Burkittsville, though, so you would have to make a little bit more of a trek, I've heard.
I could definitely imagine that. I remember when me and X drove down from Toronto, we drove down to Detroit to see the It Follows stuff, but we also went down to, like, Tennessee, where they did the Evil Dead stuff.
Okay.
And where the original cottage was, those people weren't having it. They had like so many signs and like barbed wire up that's like, stay the hell off of our property, you freaks.
It's like the Breaking Bad woman, Walter White's house in Albuquerque. If you guys have ever seen footage of that, I mean, she has huge fences, security cameras, sits outside heckling people that comes by. Just it's not fun, I guess, when something like that blows up to that degree and you're in just a little small community. So I think in hindsight, they said that was one of the things they wish they faked, is that they just had a different town name.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to go over to the horrific hotline where we have Horror Hound Nicholas. He left a voicemail. So let's see what Nicholas has to say.
Okay, so I am going to sound like a broken record here, but just like Night of the Living Dead and just like Peeping Tom, I think that Blair Witch Project, so the original one from the 90s, is one of the most influential movies for horror movies ever. It being, well, obviously not the very first found footage movie and not the original influence of found footage movies as we learned in your Peeping Tom episode, but that is like the big one, like the first big found footage film and fully found footage film. And I think it does that really, really well. So it really puts you into this found footage style. There is no overly affectious shots. There is no demons. There's basically nothing except for Forrest and those three people who turn out to be really, really annoying. And I think it is just so well crafted in its own premise that it kind of drags it down when you rewatch the movie, because the characters get so annoying and they're arguing a lot about a map just for someone to, well, throw the map away, and they are walking and sitting and talking a lot in the forest, and there's not really much happening. And it is really uneasy the first time you watch it, and it is also really uneasy the next time you watch it, but on like the third or fourth rewatch, it gets uneasy because it's just starting to get really on your own nerves. And I think it's what the movie wants to get at. It's what the movie wants to portray, because probably people in this situation would act like that. But it's not the most entertaining watch. That being said, I think the final 5 minutes are really well done and really scary. And overall, it is an effective movie if you can get into the movie, and especially considering like all the behind the scenes stuff about the marketing and how they made the movie. It's brilliant. It's fantastic to read up about that. So overall, I think this movie is a slay in concept and in ideas and in marketing. And it is a yay on a first watch and a yay for like the law department, because I think there are interesting ideas about this Blair Witch and what it could mean in the interviews at the start of the movie. But and I think this is my 5th time watching the movie, so my 4th rewatch, it is an okay as a movie. So it kind of lost a bit of its power, because you know where it's going, and if you know where it's going and if you know where the clues for the lore are, some of the scenes feel really redundant. But I still think it is a very interesting watch, and I have to admit, I've never seen, like, I think it's Book of Shadows, so the first sequel, and I've only seen the Adam Wingard sequel once, so maybe not next week, but maybe somewhere down the line, pick one of those two, because I do want to see where this is going.
Interesting,
Except if you all know both movies and say they're both complete shit, then maybe spare me that.
Well, you're in luck. Colton's going to pick the 3-hour-long version he watched.
Yeah, the second sight version. We could all talk about 3 hours and 14 minutes of them wandering through the woods. I like that Nicholas mentioned a couple of great picks we've had recently, like Night of the Living Dead, Peeping Tom, The Blair Witch Project. Missed Ginger Snaps 3. I don't know if that was intentional or not. I never heard his thoughts on Ginger Snaps 3. But if you want to be like Nicholas and leave us a voicemail, you can do so by sending it to us at itslayespodcast@gmail.com or getting it to us on any of our social media at itslayespodcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Slasher, Letterboxd, Threads, Bluesky, TikTok. If there's a social media, we're probably there at It Slays Podcast. And if you want to help support the show financially, like our horror hounds Holly, Nicholas, Mark, Steven, Dan, Brian, Trevor, OG James, and Philip, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams hosted by Jill, and get episodes of the main show 48 hours early, be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Rowan, not really any music to speak of in this movie.
I don't think there's any.
More or less. Yeah, exactly. Maybe in the sequel. But tell people where they can find the playlist.
Yeah, so you can go to Spotify and search up the It Slays Podcast Horrific Playlist. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that Colton just mentioned. Go into the bio, click the Linktree link, and there's a button that'll take you directly there. We upload scores and licensed music from iconic horror movies we review, or just horror movies we love. So follow it. We update it regularly and get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? And then I do have to promote the next Terror Vision, because we will be there and we will be giving away some tasty prizes as always. So grab your tickets. The movie is Happy Birthday to Me from 1981. I believe a Canadian horror movie. I believe it was shot in Canada, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up. So I could also just hold. I've never seen it. So, go get tickets. Come see it for the first time with me. Wednesday, May 13th at the Cineplex in Lower Sackville. Doors open at 6 p.m. Pre-show and the film starts at 7. And yeah, come check it out. It's the 45th anniversary of it. So yeah, good times. All that's left though is for us to pick our next film, our upcoming episode, and it is Colton's pick. Colton, Book of Shadows, right? That's what's coming up next.
Honestly, I wouldn't be mad.
You're joking, but before we started this episode, I thought about picking Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. And as we were discussing it and coming through, I did flirt with maybe The Fourth Kind. But after hearing that both of you guys have seen it but don't really remember it, and how we all felt about Blair Witch, I think it'll be a fun episode if we do Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. So that's what I'm thinking.
I am totally down. Amazing.
Blair Witch month coming out. We don't have a good name for the month yet.
And the funny thing is, when we were talking about it, like immediately afterwards, I was like, man, I should get that and rewatch it in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, you said that you were going to rewatch it, so I said, okay, I'm not torturing Mike. I didn't know that it wasn't found footage, so it's like, okay, he's not allergic to it because it's not found footage, so, we'll see what it's like. And I've never seen it, so obviously I heard it's absolutely terrible. But yeah, let's experience it and see what it's like.
I don't know. It could be a banger. It's in that time period, the It Slays podcast time period of bangers. That's like Gothica area. We're in that 2000s, aren't we?
Early 2000s, yeah. I mean, I think rushed out, though. I think this was turned around in like a year.
Hopefully they got their blue filter ready for us.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll have to see.
So yeah, get your eyeballs on the Blair Witch.
I just want to say
Project
there's lots
2.
of goths in Blair Witch 2.
Oh,
okay.
Cold's in heaven then. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
and Rowan, get the title right. It's Book of Shadows,
Shadows.
Blair Witch 2.
Yeah, so get your eyeballs on that.
And poor Nicholas. He was like, give me a couple of weeks at least. No. If you thought Blair Witch Project 1 was just an okay, wait until you see Blair Witch 2.
So get your eyeballs on that, and we'll be back. As always, thank you for all the support. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
Thanks, it's Mike.
And I'm Colton.
See you later.